Do you think
And
we should get rid of the Department of Education?
oh yes, we should. Yes, they
Why?
should. They should go away.
Why? Hi, everybody. Welcome to Karina Schmitt, Mega Boys, Make Education Great Again. How you all doing today? Thank you for joining us. I'm running for school board in Charlotte County, District 3, but no matter where you are in Charlotte County, you can always vote for me, of course. You don't have to be in District 3. You can be anywhere in the county and still vote for me, and you should, because we have some major changes that we want to do to the school district to make education better for the students there and also for parent involvement. I'm in the studio today with a wonderful lady and veteran as well that is running for state rep. Welcome to the show, Kat Pellegrino. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me. Don't mind the
Thank you for coming on.
hair.
No, don't worry about it. We
Busy
are
day.
people. We're not models and career politicians, right? We're working people.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. So, Kat, please tell our audience about you as a person and your background and why you're running.
Okay. So, I had 24 years in the Air Force. I'm a veteran. First and foremost, I love God and country and my family. I was watching everything going on in the country and everything going on in the state and now the county. And I need to make a change. Someone has to stand up and make a change. So I've never liked politics, and I'm that person. I have to fix things. So I got frustrated and I threw my hat in the ring to run for state committee woman, because for the past about four and a half years, I started up in Walton County in the Panhandle. I started going to Tallahassee and going to the quarterlies that were in Orlando for the Republican Party of Florida. So I was doing it as a volunteer. You don't get paid as a state committee woman, by the way. So I'm still not going to get paid for what I do if I win. But I was doing it as a volunteer, bringing back the information and putting it out to everybody. I feel like I can make a difference and be the voice for the people, because I'm very straightforward. I don't sugarcoat anything. I want transparency, integrity. That's just my military way of life. That's how I've been my whole life. So
Let me ask you real quick. You had 24 years in the Air Force, right?
yes, ma'am.
And how do you think that has prepared you to be the person you are today?
Wow.
And how can that benefit you as a state committee woman?
So being that I was a woman in maintenance, you have to develop thick skin. I will say that most of the men that I worked with were really great. There are exceptions to the rule, but you learn to deal with them, become better than them, and just persevere. It's not for the faint at heart, the military, especially maintenance for women. The Air Force I was in. Now, today it's a little different. And I retired in 2006, so it's been a minute. But back in that day, it was just different for a woman in maintenance. You had to really, do 10 times better than them. So again, I loved it.
Do you think that has been weakened in the last,
Oh,
say, 15 years or so, 10,
yes.
15 years?
With everything pushed down from the World Economic Forum, the UN, we have no business even having them here. It's all that political nightmare. Yes, our military has gone to crap, in my opinion. It is not the same military I grew up in, or my grandfather. My whole family was military. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father, my uncles, my cousins. I was the first female to go in.
You almost go back to the Revolutionary Wars.
Well, if we did, that would be great, because those guys were heroes. I mean, they had morals and they had God. This is a godless country anymore. In the military, I mean, these days, you have safe spaces. You know, when you go into boot camp, you know, they can't get in your face and yell at you like they did back in my day. And I'm like, really? Safe spaces?
That's unbelievable that they have safe spaces in the military
Yeah.
because I mean, I've never been in the military myself. However, just logically thinking and, just employing critical thinking, which I think we lack in our society now, especially with our education system the way it is now.
Yes.
But if you're at war and the enemy is coming up on your butt,
You can't take a time out.
you can't just go into a safe space and say, time out, dude. I don't really feel comfortable with this. Can you give me a minute? No, they're gonna shoot your butt up.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
mean, how can they do that?
yeah. Well, it's the higher ups in charge. You know, they were put into that position by our administration before the current president. And this has gone back years, decades.
So we're
Um,
looking back at probably Bush Obama
oh
administration when
yeah,
it
the very
really
first Bush.
starts to
Yeah.
take foothold with safe spaces and
Well, not
have a
for safe
conversation with
spaces,
yourself.
just to put people in place in positions of power to make these changes that we now have to face. Uh, Safe spaces came along, I want to say within the last 10 years. But before that, you had the administrations, current, previous, I should say, and current administrations put people in places of power and control, like Millie. You know, he's
Mm-hmm.
not doing really anything. You know, these people have no business being in those positions because they, number one, have no clue of what they're doing. They don't go by our Constitution, you know, and they are not godly people. This is my opinion. Probably a lot of other people's too. Um, but yeah, and that's like the what the executive order that just went out or is about to go out for bringing back the draft.
Oh, tell
That's
me
gonna
about
be
that. I'm pretty sure that
interesting.
a lot of parents don't even realize that, much
Yeah, so
less high
they're going
school
to
students.
initiate that. He's going to put the executive order out, right? And then it's going to be there. Now, how's that going to work when they
Do
draft
you
and it's
think,
going to be and
I have an interest in education and excuse me, bringing back classical fact-based education, classical literature,
yes,
bringing back, an understanding of our Constitution, understanding the wars that we have fought, starting with, for example, the Revolutionary War. I mean, why we're not learning adequately about that and so
exactly.
on. Um, and just historically, it seems like men were very different back then. I mean, in terms of
Yes,
their maturity, in terms of their ability to make decisions on their own instead of having to talk to mom and dad first at the age of,
right.
19, 20 years old when they're sent to war, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, guys, if you enjoy this conversation that I'm having with Kat, please go on the QR code and donate to my campaign. Kat's also going to tell you guys about her campaign and where they can donate to hers, because it's important that you support these campaigns and get the right people in office. But going
Yes.
back to that question, do you honestly think, knowing that they're going um, to implement drafting by executive order,
Yeah.
do you think our high school students today are prepared
Oof.
for that
I don't think the
culture
majority of
shock
them
it
are.
can be? I mean,
There might be a few of
the
them.
military is a different type of culture. We have to admit that, right? So
Oh
that
yeah.
shift
Well,
from the cotton balls that a lot of kids are wrapped in today, do you think they're ready? And what do you foresee happening?
what I foresee, I don't think the majority of them are ready. And honestly, the military that they would be going into now is not the same military like my forefathers or my military. So yeah, it's not going to be a pretty picture.
What
It's
are some of
just
the problems that you think, based on the changes that you've seen in our
mm,
society and the way kids are raised today, what do you think
Well,
might
I
be some
mean,
problems that they're going to be facing, and the military will be facing with these new recruits coming in.
well, you have a male general saying he's a woman now in our administration. Okay. They are paying for transition from male to female in the military. If you identify as a female and you're a male, they will pay for your surgery. Um, they're, they're not separating them anymore. So it's not a true military, in my opinion. I mean, when you go to war, you have to really have your mind engaged. You have to be, ready to fight, ready to do your job, to defend yourself. I don't see that happening with a lot of what's happening to our military now. I don't see it. I do not see it. Yeah, I don't. And we don't have.
So what are the major issues that you foresee happening on the battleground with a military that have soldiers needing to go into personal spaces and also transitioning? I mean,
You know,
how are we perceived today by other countries? Let's be honest.
other countries are laughing at us. I have friends I have friends all over, friends all over the world. When you have that camaraderie like I had, and you network and you keep in touch with your brothers and sisters who you served with, and different branches too. I mean, 'cause I went everywhere. I worked 10 different airframe. I went from fighters to cargo. That's where I traveled a lot. And then to bombers. I deployed, I went TDY. I set up things. I just they look at our military and they realize we don't have a secure military. And it's in everything that we have given to the Ukraine. Okay. All our weapon systems. We have depleted what we have in our country right now. We have maybe 3 to 6 months worth of any kind of weapon system, and that's probably it. So if we were to go to war here, it's not going to be pretty.
We're going to be doomed.
We are, because it would take at least 10 to 12 years, maybe longer,
To
to even replenish 1/3 of what they have sent over to other countries. Okay. We are
So
having a hard
as a
time
state,
getting parts for aircraft as it is. We are having a hard time getting people to even join the military and recruit them. They have raised the age limit up to almost, oh my gosh, in your 40s.
I think it was 45, I read somewhere.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
With a bonus to join as well. I think it was
Yeah.
$75,000 and up to 45 years old that you can join the military now.
But the thing is, I mean, if they keep pushing all these COVID vaccines, you're not going to have people join, because we're finding
They're not
out
going to want it.
that COVID vaccine was not a vaccine. And I can attest to that, because I was vaccine injured with the anthrax vaccine, and I have medical issues because of it. And I know what's in this COVID vaccine. It's a bioweapon, if you really want to know. And it is
Let's
killing
talk a
people.
moment about what is actually in the vaccine. I chose not to be vaccinated. The same
Yeah,
with
I
my
didn't get it
children.
either.
There's no way I'm going to do it.
Well, one of them, and I can't remember which one, if it was AstraZeneca or if it was the Moderna. They have something called luciferin gel. It's a blue gel. And it's something you don't want to put in your body. They've got the stuff that you put in Roundup is in it. You've got metals in it. You've got graphene in it. You've got AIDS in it,
Formaldehyde.
HIV in it. So I mean, there's so much. I can't list them all. I'd have to go get the paper and read it all to you.
Maybe
It's
that should
insane.
be a topic for another podcast. Yeah, because I think people want to know too. So as a state committee woman, what is it that you can bring to the table that, for example, can make a difference in respect to preparedness of our kids in school, or high schoolers, or even our college students to enter into the military? what do you bring to the table? What are some of the things that we need to
So as a state
certainly get
woman,
focused on?
my job will be the liaison between the county and the state. And I will take care of my duties as far as that goes with the Republican Executive Committee and at the state level. But I'm also going to get involved in legislation. And I'm also going to have town halls and put out to people what they can do as far as legislation, or if there's something that they want me to take to state level, I will take it. So I'm going to be the people's voice, because as you know, you've seen it with school board meetings, you've seen it at county commissioner meetings. You don't have a voice. You have 3 minutes, if that. And if they don't like what you're saying, they just turn your mic off.
They ignore it.
So, and they don't answer you right away. You know, they wait till the end. And to me, you know, that's just not civil discourse. That's not how you should run a meeting like that. If you're asking them a question, they should answer you briefly. And if they say I can answer
You think
more
they
later,
should answer you right then and there?
yeah, I do.
Thank you.
Why not? That's what the taxpayers pay them to do, right? Then why should we not dictate how we want them to do it? We are
Well,
paying.
they're employees of us, basically,
Exactly.
We are
So
their
they need
representatives,
fire.
so they need to understand their place as far as I'm concerned.
And that's
You
the
know,
problem. They don't understand their place. Okay. And
and that
people,
goes for both school board and commissioners and,
everything.
other
Yeah.
elected officials. You
Yes.
can't break through to them, but they have the power to raise their own salary, whether they do a good job or not, which I think should be by vote by the people.
Yeah.
Because they've raised their income significantly, and
They
you
need
can
to
ask
cap
yourself,
it at
well, what have we gotten back?
right. They need to cap it.
So
It
what do
shouldn't
you
be
think about this
positive.
whole drafting thing that they're doing?
That
Is it
bothers
something
you,
that
doesn't it? That draft thing. It's going to be scary, because people aren't going to understand what's going to happen. They can't keep anybody in the Ukraine army. The parents over there tried to send their kids out of country so they wouldn't go into the war, because we shouldn't be over there in the first place.
Agreed.
This is a moneymaker. This is your military industrial complex doing this. Okay. Because it's a moneymaker. Every war in history has been a moneymaker, and your corporations are behind it. People need to do their history and read. That's what it's about. Okay.
Well,
So
that brings us back to education too, about which is one of the things that I want to work on, because I don't think the people that we have in our school system and the school boards are doing much of anything in terms of truly bringing back classical literature, and bringing back fact-based history, and comparing, contextualizing with empirical data. And I see that in, for example, world history classes. They have taken the patriot feeling out of our schools, with shame on them for doing that.
that's passed down.
And I think I read that one school actually posted now the 10 Commandments in the classroom. We should have the Pledge of Allegiance up there too. It's not hard. So bringing back these classes to the way it used to be,
right,
I think
will pride.
Will also, in order for us to understand why we're here today, what is happening in our world today, you have to look at what has happened historically, because it's a circle that's going on. It's a series of events that bring us to here. So if you keep yourself ignorant and just focus on Facebook, have your face on Facebook, oh, cookie recipes, that's really great, I'd like to try those. Not to dumb people down, but that's quite frankly what the system has done, and what the elite has done. They're trying to dumb people down. Your perspective on that?
Is technology is a double-edged sword. It's great in some places, but then again, it's not. They've been doing statistics on how kids at a young age, if you get them on the computers and everything else, they don't know how to do critical thinking. It dumbs them down. It's proven. Yeah, technology is part of your problem. Your Department of Education is part of your problem, because they're pushing down the agenda.
Do you think we should get rid of the Department of Education?
Oh, yes, we should. Yes, they
Why?
should, they should go away
Why?
because they're all leaning towards socialism and communism. They don't care about your kids. They don't. It's about money and lobbyists. A lot of our problems right now in this country is about control and power and money. They do not care about middle class. They don't care about your children. And they don't care about the population because they think there's too many of us in the first place. And it's the corporations behind it. And that's a problem. And the corporations also push down through your Department of Education what you will and will not train your kids on because they're brainwashed from college all the way down to kindergarten.
And
They
a lot of
they're not
colleges are used as a seeding ground for spies
oh,
and
this
training
it's now
spies.
in your elementary
Um,
school.
I definitely have to break in on that one here because this is a book that I'm a bit of a book nerd too. I love reading, and I used to have a publishing company, and I used to have a bookstore. Shortly lived, unfortunately, because of COVID and
Yeah.
wokeism in malls. Malls are notoriously woke.
Oh
Pretty much
yeah.
all the companies, not just the management companies, but the stores that have long-term contracts, they're all woke. So I recommend this book here. It is
Oh,
written by Daniel Golden, and it's called Spy Schools. Now, Spy Schools is about how the CIA, you're going to be shocked when you read this book. I recommend all parents ought to read this. And actually, the seniors in high school too, you ought to read this book before
yeah.
you enter to college, because this book exposes how the CIA and the FBI and foreign intelligence secretly exploit America's universities. And it is not just one university, it is the Ivy League schools, and how it's a collaboration between especially China, huge player in this game, and these schools are all over the place. If you're thinking about sending your kids to college, or the children are expressing interest in studies, they seriously need to read this book. I cannot stress that enough. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about this book in a different podcast. But I want to get back to your campaign. How do people reach out to you? Because your role as a state
Committee.
committee is really important, actually.
Yeah, it is because like I said, you've got to get the word to the people. You have to be the voice for the people, and that's what I'm about. I am about making noise and getting, attention to a problem because again, I'm a problem solver. I always have been. In the military, that strengthens you on that too. So, um,
How do
I
people
just
get in touch with you? How do they reach you for your campaign? And
okay.
how could they donate to your campaign?
They can go to my website. It's Kat Pellegrino, like the water.com. That's KatPellegrino.com. And there's a donate button and they can automatically
And
donate.
I'm going to make sure that I put your website in the notes on this. So you guys out there, you can just go to the notes and click on that, go straight to her website and donate to it. Do you have a newsletter, or how do you reach your people from your website? Can they
So
sign up for a newsletter? Do you have articles that you post on there?
I have information as far as the websites that I use to gather information. I do not have a newsletter as of yet because of campaigning. It's very hard to get a newsletter out, but they can call me. My personal number, my cell phone number, and my email is on that website. I will answer the
Right.
phone.
Okay.
I've had two
Well,
people
that's a
answer me
really
already.
good, that's a really good thing, because a lot of elected officials, even if you show up to, for example, school board meetings, and you address a question, and you even say to them, I want you to get back to me
Yep.
about this. They actually
Yep.
expect you to email them again. And when I did ask a question here in May at the school board meeting, I didn't hear anything back. Eventually, I ran
Oh, wow.
into the gentleman that I'm running against in District 3. And he was like, yeah, right now I'm busy ending the school year. And, you got vacation coming up. I'm also, prepping for the next 4 to 8 years. They implemented term limits for the school board members, right?
Right.
So those that have already been there for 8 years, they basically, because they were so clever to give themselves, to grandfather themselves. So that means their clock starts over. So he's going to be running
Wow.
for his fourth term. Come on, please resign. I mean,
Yeah.
do you really feel that you need to run for a fourth term
No, matter of fact, I'll do
after
term,
we have
that's it.
seen a drop in literacy? We've seen a drop in attendance. We've seen an increase in crime. Our level of readiness for the job market is crap. That's
Yeah.
what I hear from a lot of employers that I've talked to. I walk into their businesses and talk to them about, hey, what is some of the things that you're looking for when you're hiring people? And they're not good stories. It's down to the basics that
Well, they
they
don't teach
can't
them
count
basic.
back.
They
But
don't, they don't know how to
a lot
balance
of
a checkbook.
they can't balance a checkbook.
They
They
can't
can't count back.
socialize.
Right.
You know,
They
they
don't even
can't
say
be
hello, how
critical
you
of
doing when you
themselves.
walk in the store.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of things that really need to change. And if you have not been able to make a positive influence on that in the last 12 years, what in the hell do you think you're going to be able to do in the next 4? If it's all, and that's just logically. So I said to him, well, you have my phone number, you have my email address. I put everything on the little card. Reach out to me and tell me when you'd be available. Well, he thought he would
Yeah.
be available for a whole hour in September when they start up again. I'm like, what?
You know, I remember
No, we can't
when
do
I was
that.
in, yeah, when I was in school, you your parents were involved, number one. You've got in
That's
trouble, you
another
got
thing
in
we need to
trouble,
bring back.
you know. Um, and I was taught how to manage a checkbook and how to respect people and how to work. I mean,
Right.
I was working, I had a paper out and I had it from the age of 10 to 12. And then after that, I got, doing sports in school and whatnot. By the time I was 15, I started working at a gas station slash garage because I'm a mechanic. I always have been. And then at age 16, I went to work at Burger King. It was, yeah, part time. I mean, I've been working since I was 10. I would go out to
Right.
my pappy's farm, my
Yeah,
great
I was
grandfather,
12 when I started working.
and work. I would
I
drive
cleaned the bakery for
tractors.
3.5 years.
I would drive the tractors and help them with everything, learn to plow and all that stuff. It was fun for me. But that was, ingrained in you. That's what you did. You were taught responsibility and how to, take care of yourself.
You come from a very practical background with your military service, as well, to take into consideration. They have largely taken away a lot of the practical courses over the years, and it's a shameful thing that they have done.
Yeah.
What are some of the most important practical courses you would like to see back?
Well, I would like to see what they had in my high school, which I grew up in Ohio. Okay. So I graduated up in Ohio. My high school had, what they called their, educational, so I can't remember the name, what they called it, but you had your, wood shop, your machine shop, your automotive shop, you had, beautician school, you had, your
And
cooking
this was in high
high
school?
school.
High
Yes,
school.
ma'am. High school.
Yeah.
So, and I was that kid that couldn't sit still. I still am most of the
What about
time.
home economics? Did they have that? Because I think they need
Yes,
to
and they
bring that
had
back as
that.
well.
Yes, they had that. They had,
Driver's
and
ed.
in that they had, yes, we had a driver's ed ramp. This was amazing. The whole like block was like huge school. And then over on the one side, they had an on-off ramp that they built, right? On the school parking lot. And they had like the painted lanes for parallel parking and roadway. And that was for driver's ed. It was huge. And you had to go through driver's ed before you got your permit. Yeah.
Fair enough.
You don't see that anymore. So,
No, and they need to bring that back, both driver's ed,
oh my
home
gosh,
economics,
that's so
and
cool.
I mean, I talked to a lady the other day, Wednesday, in fact. She was working in a store, and I was talking to her and her coworker, and she said, well, even something like sewing classes. When she went to school, they had sewing classes
Did too.
for both
Yeah.
boys and girls.
Yep.
And there was no gender talk. Forget about all this gender focus. They didn't even talk about it. It was just
Nope.
everybody needed to learn how to, put a
Yeah.
button in a shirt if it falls out instead of just
Yeah.
leave it out and look sloppy, right?
We had classes for teaching you how to budget your checkbook and finances.
And they need to bring that back.
We had all that.
Financial literacy is something that has to be front and center too. I mean, it correlates in a sense to, of course, math.
Yes.
If you are looking at your math classes and you're studying statistics, I mean, you need to study money as well.
Oh yeah.
If you don't know how many pennies it takes to get 38 cents, you have a problem. This is not a joke.
No, they don't
I literally saw that with a young girl in high school that was asked, how many pennies does it take to get 38 cents? And she really couldn't figure it out. I was disgusted.
Yeah.
That should be something in first grade at the latest.
Even when I was stationed overseas, I can remember, tell you what, Korea and Japan, those kids, wow. You talk about respect for people in general and their elderly, but man, they went to school and they excelled. I mean, these kids, they pushed the school. Parents were involved over there. It was totally different overseas than it is in the United States. Totally different. I was amazed how mature they were, how respectful, and how smart they were. I mean, they were smart kids. And I was like, wow.
Well, I think the Scandinavian countries have that too. I grew up in Denmark, and Denmark, they compare the United States to Denmark a lot anymore. But the same with Finland. Both of these countries, Norway and Sweden as well. I think Sweden is a bit more woke than Denmark is, but Denmark has their dealings with wokeness too. However, the education that many of them come out with is significantly better than the United States. It used to be that, and I talked about this at a Republican club just the other day too, when that was when I ran into Bob Seger that I'm running against for the second time.
I didn't know there.
That was interesting that we were both at the same meeting. I didn't know that when I walked in the door, but that's okay. But it used to be that Scandinavians, Europeans in general, wanted to come to the United States for their education programs to go above what they were able to do with their own universities. That's not the case anymore.
No, it's not.
They don't choose the United States in the rates that they used to, unless they're studying American history, perhaps. But for engineering and unless, well, there's some lawyers that will, or law students that will come over to study the American legal system, but that's about it. They are not very attractive anymore, the programs here.
No,
they're not. And that's that. We need to bring that back, but that started at an elementary level and with parental involvement. We need to bring that back. We need to actually allow parents to come back into the schools.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, parents need to get involved with their kids. They need to know what's going on.
Do you think they have gradually pushed parents out with the purpose of creating a wedge between parents and their children?
I can see that. I can see that now. Yeah, because you used to have PTOs and all that stuff, and honestly, some parents get involved, but the way the economy is, you've got to work. So some parents work, both parents work, or one has two jobs, the other one has one job. And so the school's like, they have after school programs. They'll babysit my kid for me, but they don't realize they trust the schools. And now they realize that they can't trust the schools. A lot of them are waking up to that.
Mm-hmm.
Over the, I would say, last 2 decades, it's been coming. I mean, you could see it. You could see.
We've also had a door shut in terms of, and they've used this ridiculous privacy nonsense as the shield between parents you can't get a class list, a contact list between parents anymore. So
Yeah, that's wrong.
parents can't communicate effectively and say, hey, how's your kid doing in school? Or did you get this and this homework or whatever? It's really hard to communicate between parents without the school knowing, using, like, for example, Dojo. I'm totally against Dojo. I won't use
I don't
it.
even know what it is. My kids have been out
Oh,
of school so long.
all the stuff that you post on Dojo is shared and accessible by, 180 million people, I think it is. It's ridiculous. And hundreds of, I think it's like 170 something countries. So
You know,
when you think about the stuff that's on it, you have no control over who has access to your information, who has not. But
that's not
it's
good.
awesome.
And as soon as you said that, yeah, flag went up. That's
But the thing is, if a
trafficking
parent
issue.
wants to communicate, if you and I have kids in the same class, right? And I just want to talk to you about, hey, my daughter was not in school today. She was sick.
Right.
She has some questions about that. Can you reach out to your daughter and see what was it that the teacher said about this? Because you won't be able to answer the question. You weren't in the classroom. Your daughter was, right? We
Right.
should be able to communicate directly instead of the teacher monitoring that.
Yeah, no. They
That
have,
is
see,
ridiculous what they've done there.
that's to me, that is socialism style there.
It's
No,
total
no,
social, it's communism.
it is. Yeah, no. And and you don't
So
know
how can you,
on the internet, that's
as
part of
a
the
state
issue.
committee woman, what are you able to do to push us back in the right direction?
Oh, make noise, get the right people, network, and bring parents there. I have no problem with people coming up to Tallahassee with me and me directing to where they want to go. I mean,
Are
we
parents
gotta get
able
more,
to go to Tallahassee? Because I think a lot of people don't even know this, and they don't know what the
anybody can go
role
to
of you
Tallahassee.
is.
That's the people's capital. Yes, you can go.
When you go out and you meet people, do you think that oftentimes they're surprised about what your role really is? Do they understand who you are and what
They
your
don't
role
they don't
is?
even know, most of the time they don't know what the state committee woman is. They don't even know what the Republican executive committee is. And I have to explain that process too. And I'll be honest with you, 5.5 years ago, I didn't know what it was. I had no clue, but I got mad. I got angry and frustrated what was going on. And I decided to form a Republican club with my best friend. And then she got me involved in the executive committee. And then I met the state committee woman up there and she took me under her wing and I started going to Tallahassee. I don't know everything, but I'm a quick learner. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So
And
when is
then
the election for you?
what's now?
When is the election? When can people vote for you?
So the county elections, our elections are August 20th. So you've got your school board, you've got your commissioners, you've got the sheriff, you've got state committee man, state committee woman, clerk of court. There's like 17. The judges.
Judges.
The only thing that is not August 20th are your Punta Gorda City Council because they're their own municipality, and theirs is in November,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm going to be stumping for them. If I get elected or not elected, I will be stumping for them so that I can get them in because they are part of Charlotte County. The grassroots movement is a real thing and it matters, and more people need to be aware of it and more people need to get involved. So any help that you and I can get from people, please bring it. We need door knockers. We need people to put the word out. We need everybody to get involved to
For
help make this.
both campaigns, both me for school board and you for state committee.
Yep, because
Absolutely.
in my opinion, the Republican Party needs a lot of help. You have almost basically a uniparty now. I see just one party, and then I see grassroots.
What age groups are you looking for? Or is it anybody? Like, could eighth graders come with their parents?
Sure, bring their parents. Yes, if they're under
I mean,
18, you
I
got
brought
their
my
parents.
kids to meetings, so
Yep, yep.
I don't have any qualms with it.
I think the
Um,
younger the better, because then they can learn what grassroots is about and what the Constitution is about and what it
it's
is
a
to
form
fight
of
for your
civic studies,
county.
I think.
You know, it's like, yeah, it's like local matters. You
Yeah.
know, this is our home. Okay. You have to understand, people have to understand, I should say, that local matters and the government is not going to be your best friend and not coming to help you. The federal government is not going to help you.
No, no,
It's
no.
going to be our local government. And people need to realize that. I think people for so long now have wanted a hand up, but they're getting handouts and they've got complicit to them, you know, and here we are. And they're expecting it.
In
And
a
what does
world
it
of
lead
trouble.
into? Socialism into communism. And I'm sorry, but I'm a free
So
thinker.
where can anybody, whether they're in eighth grade or they're in high school, or parents, grandparents, reach out to you again?
My telephone number and on my website, katpellegrino.com. That's KATPELLEGRINO.com. And my number is 239-919-6941. That is my cell number. I give it out to everybody. And yes, I
So
get calls. So
so if a high schooler reaches out to you and say, "Hey, I'd like to help you out with this. I really like what you had to say. I've experienced this and this in school." Um,
yeah,
they can join you with their parents, of course,
yes,
unless they're 18 and older,
right.
um, and start handing out flyers
Oh,
and
it's my
knocking
neighbor.
doors. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Everybody out there, thank you so much for listening. Kat Pellegrino, thank you so much for coming on the
Thank you for having me.
Mega Voice podcast. That's Make Education Great Again. Um, join her movement and support me for state, I mean for school board, and Kat for state committee woman. We need
Yes.
everybody to get behind us,
Yes.
and we are all about, and I think I speak for you as well when I say we're about connecting with people and listening to people,
Yes,
you know,
ma'am. It's all
which
about
is
the
one of the
people.
reasons why I'm doing these podcasts, and I know you have considered a similar thing. It's the way that we prevent radio stations and TV stations and the papers from censoring us, because that
Yes.
happens. Radio
Yes.
stations are notorious for having 17, 18 seconds from when they
Yep.
interview you to when the listeners actually get the news. That's enough time for them to
Yes.
edit you out if you say something that they don't want to hear. They're also notorious for shutting people's microphones off, and that's why I wanted to do
Or
this
hanging up on
podcast
them.
with
That
you.
just happened.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Or hanging up on them. That just happened on the
Oh
Ken
yeah,
level.
that happens too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do shut people down, which is a form of dictatorship
Yes,
practiced
ma'am.
right in our community. That's totalitarianism.
Yeah.
And some of these radio stations, I'm almost sometimes tempted to say they're so ignorant they don't even realize what they're doing, because that's the kind of stuff that we've seen in Europe,
Yeah.
in the Eastern Bloc.
Oh yeah.
And
And like I said, I've been over there, and of course you lived over there.
I
So,
did, yeah.
and I think people that haven't been over there or haven't
Well,
seen.
Denmark, I mean, Denmark prides itself of being a free
Yeah.
country. It's not. It has a very, very, very scary controlled press.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And there is no alternative. There's one way, and that's it.
Yeah.
You'll hear Danes say we have a common sense instead of saying we have common sense. That tiny little word, now I'm getting nerdy
Yeah.
here, but it makes a huge difference between having a common sense. That means that we all think the same way, or
Yeah.
common sense.
Right. Exactly.
Let's pay
And
attention to the details here, and that's about critical thinking too. You
yes.
know, not just say, "Oh yeah, a common sense, that sounds good." No, it means something.
Yes.
The same with when we say the Pledge of Allegiance and we say one nation under God
Yeah.
without the comma. That makes a difference.
Yes, it does.
Absolutely. Now you
Check it
should
out,
study
puppy.
that in school, right?
Okay.
All
Just
right.
had to check out my new puppy.
Nah, it's
He's
okay.
faithful.
Um, Kat, thank you so much for taking the time on
Thank you for
Friday
having me. I appreciate
evening
it.
here on June 21st. And I wish you all the best in your campaign.
You too.
And
And
thank
I'll
you
stick
so
around.
much. Thank you.
All
Yeah,
right. Thank
we
you.
gotta, and let's bring you back for another day to continue
Yes.
the conversation about the military and
Awesome. I'd love
preparing
to.
our high schoolers because they're going to get drafted sooner than later. They will be drafted. How do we
Yeah.
need, what do we need to do to mentally and in terms of skills and academic background, getting them ready for military service, girls and boys?
Well, the military's got to change first. We've got to get the military back to what we had
We
because,
do, but if they're drafted, they better be prepared
yeah,
because they are
it's
not right now.
no,
They're not. So thank you
no.
so much. I loved having you on here. Great
I love being here.
conversation. Go to Kat's website. Make sure you donate to Kat's campaign. She needs all your support. Sign up, email her or text her, give her a call and volunteer. And the same for school board for me. Have a great weekend. I'd love to have you back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.